Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Baer, and joining me once again is my partner in crime, Kenny Boucher. So, dog.
Yo, dog, great to be here.
So, Wyatt is returning some videotapes again, but we heard from him, and he's doing better. He's on the mend. Going to be a few weeks.
Yeah, we just heard from him in the after hours, actually. So, and also some spicy behind the scenes takes in our before. Yes. So he was with us for a solid 30, 40 minutes. But he has to go rest. He's at home now. He's back from the hospital. He's feeling a lot better. So that's just the update on everyone who's been asking about him, and he appreciates all the well wishes.
Yeah, I think he's just happy to be out of the hospital too. I wouldn't want to be in the hospital for a week. Shoot.
Nope.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So that's good that he's back at it again. But he said he probably missed a few streams and such, just getting better.
Yeah, he expects 3 weeks of rest.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be on and off, with hearing from him for next little bit. He had to back out of Las Vegas teams. So that's been the big event we've been all planning on going to, is the Las Vegas team tournament.
That stinks.
Unfortunate. He was our team captain. And so he's transferred that responsibility to me because he knows I fucking hate it, even though it should have gone to Zach. So, but we got a replacement. Shout out to Matt Green from XBZ who came in. The XBZ crew was able to figure out that there was somebody in their squad who wanted to go, but they had their teams filled up. And it was so, they're such good, allies that even Steven, the de facto leader of XBZ, he was like, I'm on one of our main squad, but one of our, other guys, he really wanted to play. And so I might just, leave our squad and I'll join your squad so he can play in our main squad. And then
solid.
Well, they all had to talk about it. And the conclusion was, that's a lot more moving parts than this guy just joining our squad.
Well, yeah, I could see that too.
But it just shows you they're a great group of guys, so shout out to my man, Matt, known as Headstrong on the internet. He's actually been a great asset for us, doing our team matrix and stuff. So I feel like we're more prepared than we would be otherwise if it was somebody else and me's the captain. I already delegated it. We got two Matts. We got Matt Castro from Dice Check as well. Mm-hmm. And so they're over here talking about we need to get a matrix going. I was like, look, man, that's totally not boring and stupid. And I delegate this incredibly important responsibility to you guys. I'm counting on you guys.
Sounds like reading and writing.
So we'll be at Vegas teams. Demeki, Matt, myself, Zach, Blues Brothers style road trip. I'm gonna be doing a morning stream on Friday the 23rd, because normally I'd wait till 5 p.m. But you can't leave Los Angeles at 5 p.m. You wait till 7. Drive to Vegas, wake up early for a tournament. Kind of crazy. Demeki and the guys are my ride, so I've compromised. So that's an announcement. On Friday the 23rd, Next Level Painting on Twitch will be a never seen before 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time morning show. So people were like, morning? Shit. Oh no. And I was like, okay, you know what I mean by morning. I mean the last morning hour on the West Coast. Meaning
that's
for
what, 2?
Almost all of you, it's not the morning.
It's like the early afternoon for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For most of the planet. And
yes.
And so we'll be departing from Los Angeles at 3 p.m. and we'll be heading to Vegas. If anyone's going to be there, come by and say hi to your boy. Update. This is not only when we're doing a Would You Rather. Update is that I just did that Blood Angels Army, which you can see on the Dice Check YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Right? But that's old meta. That was some shit we talked about a year ago, and I got lazy and left it all assembled in a cupboard and then made it. Played one game with Matt, realized what I needed to do, which I already knew I needed to do, and I'm doing it. So basically I've added 1,200 points to the army. It's basically a new army.
Jeez.
So
yeah, that's a new army, dude.
Come on. It's the battalion because I have to go to the battalion format now, especially with the way the meta is, which I go into. We did a really great tactics edition today about some of that stuff. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see a lot of stuff. Using the 101 workflow methodology from the Next Level Painting curriculum, right? That's that commission style from literally 12 years ago. Rob shared a picture from 10 years ago with me and Rob on the After Hours. Right.
Yeah,
and then it was crazy.
That was wild.
The other day, a picture from almost 10 years ago with me and Bonet showed up. And she's like, we were babies. And I look at it and it's just her. She looks exactly the same and it's just me. I was like, okay, fuck you both. I was like, Rob said this. Rob was real with me. Rob was like, you look old. I was like, you can't even change. I was like, get out of here, woman. But what I'm saying is if you follow me on Instagram, what you're seeing is the commission style. What you're seeing is I made a spreadsheet. I used to do it on a dry erase board, and I do recommend that to anyone trying to get workflow. Get a dry erase board that has a calendar on it and write your workflow on that. Don't use a spreadsheet because what you train yourself to do with a spreadsheet is just type it in there and game it. Move shit around. When you have to write it down with a marker, what you're trying to accomplish on your goals on your days, and you're working around your life schedule, every time you miss a mark because of an unexpected thing, you got to erase some shit, dude, and rewrite some shit. So after about 3 of those in a month, you're going to stop erasing shit and you're going to make shit happen. You're going to just get small in the margins and write more shit in on other days. So using my system, I have quite easily and comfortably, I am literally tomorrow night right now. That's how far along I am. I'm at tomorrow night's quota, getting the 1,200 points done. And so far, every model is next level quality. And right now we're at intercessors getting battle ready by our system. But I'm like, guys, I'm about to hit our mark a week ahead of schedule.
I guess.
Looks like it's all going to be next level.
Yeah, because I was like, now you can have time to tool it all out.
Yeah. So 5 Assault Centaurians on Instagram. Take a look at those badasses. You want to talk about something
that's cool,
really cool looking and not that hard to paint if you use strategies? I've painted them in the past and they can be a nightmare, but damn. So anyway, that's me catching you guys up on some cool stuff in lieu of a non-existent Would You Rather. We have an exciting Hobby AMA. We got a bunch of questions that we sourced from the crowd. We do this sometimes. Rob hasn't been a part of the last 2 AMAs, Hobby AMAs.
It's true. I've been broken.
And so, we mentioned some of his more notorious medical emergencies he's had over the last couple of years. If you want to go back to the After Hours and hear some of these very real stories about what's happened to him.
How about that $12,000 emergency room visit? What the hell?
God damn.
What's wrong with life? That number doesn't make any sense.
Yep. And also,
when are you going to finish up that Viking night? Or it's not done, right?
Oh, good questions. So I'm waiting for a base. And the thing is, this is okay. So I'll circle back to that because there's also a question in the MA that will answer that as well twice. So I'm working on a really incredible model that Rob just released on the Spiky Bits.
It's on pre-order because we got to do a batch.
He put the thing in there that lets you buy it.
Yeah, this is the first time you can actually order it on pre-order, but you'll get it this month /October because we're only going to do one big batch of them.
So you may have seen some of those videos on my gram. He's in a holding pattern waiting for something. Okay. I also did some extracurricular sculpting on him, which is also in the VODs right now on Twitch. I haven't edited them down for quick workflow yet. Been really busy because I'm managing another big announcement. I'm managing the Stormlight Archive premium miniatures on Twitch right now because I'm the only guy. I'm the web exclusive. I've got Dalinar Colin and Adolin shard plate 50 millimeter proofs. They don't exist, right? It's a 32 millimeter injection molded plastic pre-fund campaign. And they gave me 20 of those to give away and 2 to paint. So I'm the only guy. So so that's kind of like what we're doing this month is, if anyone knows me, the Stormlight Archive series is my favorite fantasy books ever written. Way of Kings for Life. That's where I got started 10 years ago. That was my first audiobook for figured out how to do commission painting and not get bored. So that there's lots of information about that on Instagram too. They hit $1.3 million in the first day.
Yeah, the first day they crushed it.
So, so the first video that's going to come out as an Instagram reel and a YouTube short is how to paint Dalinar from the perspective of a fantasy book nerd who's never painted anything. And how to make them look good. So like we got a lot going on hobby. So like we're doing our Hobby AMA podcast. So that's all relevant. We'll talk about the Viking night. I'm going to answer some questions from chat. I'm going to answer Rob's question in AMA.
I get a question.
And one person in chat did ask about my curriculum. Bro, just DM me on literally any platform, and I'll answer any questions about my courses. But let's kick it over to Rob. Rob's going to lead us in the tabletop marketplace. Or
would you say I was your first student?
Yeah, I would.
I guess I turned out okay.
Yeah, which is funny because the way me and Rob, not the way we met, the first time I heard of Rob's name was at a game store in Colorado Springs. Your boy Getz, remember that dude?
I do. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember. I want to say 5th, 4th edition. I don't know. Playing this guy.
Yeah, probably.
He's got Black Templar, and I'm just, dumpstering his ass with my cast over and over again. And he's like, still just like never done painting his army. And he's like, and I'm trying to give him advice on how to paint his army faster. He's like, no, trust me. Like I've been trained how to paint. Rob Baer taught me how to paint. And I was actually giving him advice on how to paint red faster. And
right.
He was like, no, Rob Baer taught me this. And I was like, I don't know who the fuck that is. He's like, well, he taught me. And I was like, cool.
Cool story, bro.
Anyway, Rob, Blizzard news. Let's do it.
Blizzard news. So first off, I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the whole hashtag Faces of Warhammer kind of movement that just kind of popped up. You've probably been seeing a lot of Instagram posts of female artists, not necessarily always female artists, but just, folks taking a picture of whatever they're working on with their face, or just their body in general in it, so you could see kind of the artist and such. And, I think a lot of them got a lot of like weird DMs and a lot of flack. And so this relatively new content creator to the space, I think it's the Warhammer girl, basically came up with this hashtag movement for people to show support, take pictures of themselves, and their models that they're working on or have worked on, and just kind of, to just kind of say F the haters, as a bit of a kind of like, hey, it's not okay. You need to be kind of not be so rude. And, you can make the argument that the internet is a little bit rude. I know the internet's been pretty rude to me throughout the years, but that's okay. I love it. It motivates me and kind of keeps me on my toes, so to speak. But, at the end of the day, I think, and GW said it's obviously one of their messages that, hate has no place in the actual hobby. And no matter, whether it's, bigotry of all kinds, I think it's kind of old news in a lot of ways, because, these, and it really hit home for me when I saw my sister actually did it. Yes, I do have a sister, and she hobbies on Warhammer, and she was one of the people in this. At the time, it was pretty small. I think only a couple hundred folks there. And when I was looking through it, I was like, oh shit, there's my sister. So, it really kind of hit home for me personally that, a lot of folks out there might feel marginalized and, kind of, it's not welcoming sometimes out there for folks. And I get the message, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And, I made a post too, just doing the same thing, took some pictures with the Titans and one of the conversions I worked on back in the day. And it quickly turned out to be our most engaging post ever on social medias. I think on Facebook, it got something like 60 or 70,000 reach. Like that's people seeing it, like individual people seeing it, not commenting, not thumbs up, just it being shown to that many people. There was something like 16 or 1700 likes at this point. and well over 500 or 600 comments, which is, and as you can imagine, there was a few on there that had to get deleted and hidden and cleaned up, which is unfortunate as well, just to kind of see that kind of hatred just kind of splashing over into what we do. But it's out there and you're going to see it everywhere. But at the end of the day, you know, I think the hobby is never going to grow if we do not, you know, kind of welcome these folks, whether they're, you know, whoever they are really, into the hobby, because the hobby in recent months has, maybe even a year, has been shrinking after experiencing a large boom, you know, in the COVID era. So I think at the end of the day, you know, just kind of remember that, like, you know, everybody, when you see this stuff, like, you know, those folks are like somebody's brother or aunt or uncle or, you know, brother, sister. You know, it doesn't, you don't have the right to talk to people like that, whether you're anonymous or not on the internet. Like, it's just, it's really, just keep scrolling. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, it just boggles my mind that people get that butthurt and have to comment on these things out there. And maybe I'll never understand it, but I think this movement is a good way to kind of raise awareness. So if you haven't done so already, you know, maybe consider taking a picture of yourself and what you're working on. Maybe your cat, even. That's always a work in progress. She has figured out she can shred that to-go bag I put down on the floor now. So we're going to hear that throughout the show probably. And, you know, add the hashtag Faces of Warhammer. It's basically on every platform: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They all have it. And if you didn't know what it was, well, that might explain the post there. So that's really important to me, and I hope to see a lot more folks posting on that hashtag here going in the future. So we do have the official pricing of this week's big release. It is the Leagues of O-Town Army box, as prophesized, relatively soonish, I suppose. And that is $200, which is the same price as the Beastnaga box and the Black Templar Army boxes. And I think leaves, if you price out the squads at $60 each, which it seems like every unit's going to $60 each. So I don't see why they wouldn't at this point. Maybe it's $55, but I think we're pretty dialed in on it. You're looking at a pretty good value in that box. Like at $200, there's like, I think 343 estimated value, give or take. That's way more than just the book and the data cards, right? For free. You're getting a lot more in that box for free. And I think a lot of folks are going to really pick up on this army and start collecting them over the next 3 months. Cause you know, there's going to probably be multiple waves of this, because I don't know exactly when we talked about it in the show, maybe in the pregame, but there technically might not be any more releases for 40K until, quote, winter, according to GW's roadmap, which starts the third week of December. I don't know the exact date. It's probably the 22nd. And winter goes to March 20th of 2023. So, and there's only 2 more Codex books to come out, and we know what they are: Guard and World Eaters, which is really cool. Except for maybe when you remember the fact that only 3 months from March 20th, 2023 is probably going to drop the new edition of 40K. So, it is what it is. It's sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, I suppose. But I can see where a lot of people are going to pick up this new box, and we're going to talk about probably a little bit of the how people are feeling about this new army going forward in the future. Another big reveal over the weekend was Vallejo throwing their hat in the ring of new contrast alternatives. And what they're calling their product is Express Color, spelled with an X, Express Color. And it looks like an interesting product. There is, and you can just Google it. You'll probably find our post on it. We embedded the Instagram of the artist that got the exclusive. I guess he was at one of the cons in Spain, and they were showing it off, and he was painting some miniatures. And, you know, I would also like to mention that this was the particular individual that created the reactivation issue with Army Painter stuff, which again, it's not an issue if you just use the Army Painter speed paint as a one coat solution. It's one coat. It's one coat for your miniatures. Now,
so you're saying the review is sus because this guy was on a campaign for hating on the Army Painter one, and now he's on the Vallejo dick?
So what he said in his YouTube post, and this particular person posts in Spiky Bits Hobbies all the time, and I don't have any particular beef with him except for the fact that I feel in general sorry for a lot of or I could sympathize with a lot of YouTube content creators because they're on this treadmill of they don't really work for themselves as much as they think. They work for YouTube and they are getting monetized for YouTube, and their videos won't get those views and things unless they are making more and more controversial content to one up themselves, if not other folks. And if everybody's talking about how dope speed paint is, well, what's the best, easiest thing to do is to come in and be like, well, actually, speed paint is defective, and here's why. And yeah, I mean, everybody that had speed paint, none of us noticed that because we were using it like you're supposed to use speed paint. Now, when somebody comes in and was using speed paint like contrast paint, it doesn't quite work like that. Yes, I agree. But that wasn't the point of speed paint in the beginning. So what I've been able to ascertain from the YouTube comments was he said he helped him and Angel Oraldez, however you say it. I'm really bad. I'm a stupid American. I can't pronounce things that aren't American. I apologize. Basically said that he had been working in development and he had been working on it for about 6 months. And if you do to 6 months back, that gets us to like March. It isn't quite when his video dropped. His video dropped before that. So I can't really say that it's sus and that maybe he had an ulterior motive. It could be that he dropped that video and Vallejo was like, yo, dog, you want to help us come up with something better? We're working on this thing. I can't really say for sure, but I do want to mention that it is the same person. And then they had an exclusive to show this product, which, the proof is in the pudding. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Judge for yourself. If you like his content, watch this content. I personally think the Express paint looks great. I can't wait to, maybe try it out myself. But my genuine concern with Express paint is Vallejo paints are notoriously hard to get in the States. Even before COVID, their distribution is garbage. And unless you're like a franchise that pulls out there's one distributor in the States for Vallejo. And unless you're a franchise that has these larger accounts, you're going to have a harder time stocking and keeping Vallejo stock. And that's going to be an issue, as we saw with speed paint. Speed paint had some distribution issues. Now imagine that on a larger scale, because I would say that probably Vallejo is a larger business, does more business than Army Painter.
The thing is, Vallejo is, this kind of counters my Vallejo criticisms of the past, which Vallejo hasn't really had a new hit in a long time. Right. They just reorganized their same stuff over and over again. And they were one of the first alternatives, if not the first alternatives to Games Workshop Citadel paints. And they offered an incredible range of really good paint and airlines and all sorts, and especially in an era when like airbrushing was new to the community.
Oh yeah.
So you're like, oh, I want airbrush only paint. So really doesn't matter that much. Like they offered so much good stuff, and they still do. They're just not the best in town anymore, or even the only alternative, or even the best alternative. But as a paint company, they make great fucking paint. It's just
overall,
it's just not like that much better than Citadel paint anymore, in my opinion, because GW's up their formula multiple times. Like I'm equally on the fence of either brand, because GW, I don't like the fact that their paints are inconsistent by design, right? This is a thicker consistency. This is a thinner consistency.
Yeah.
But they're consistent in their purpose, in pretty decent quality, just insanely expensive. Whereas the Vallejos, because of a lot of the reasons Rob just listed, in supply line issues and maybe other reasons I can't speak to because I just have assumptions, but they are notoriously inconsistent in what you get in that bottle, as far as like even color. You'll look at the same literal paint you bought 2 years ago, and here it is, and they're literally fucking different, right? Or they separate happens like crazy because I think they get stuck on like supply trains and like get stuck on a fucking oceanic ship for like 6 months, but ultimately they're really fucking good quality in the space. And I would say expert analysis superior to Army Painter in every way as a paint. Like Army Painter war paints are less than Vallejo paints.
I would agree with that.
It's pretty easy to observe. Like Army Painter's best paints they have now is their air paints. And that's because that's fixed, in my opinion, a lot of consistency issues. It's just better to have a whole line of paints be air paints and just say, that's my paint now. And because it's thinned down, you don't have to worry. It's just good.
I personally paint with air paint.
Yeah, that's kind of the consistency you should be painting with, right? But GW trains you a different way so that it can be attainable to you. But even comparing Army Painter's air paint to Vallejo's, they're not even the same company. So I would assume if the same level of like engineering goes into their espresso paint, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Yeah, and
it looks great.
It's just that they're not going to be on every shelf in your community. They're not going to be probably as easy to get. But
that's my concern.
That's it. It's they're probably going to be better than the Army Painter ones. Like if we just go in the data we can observe without trying them for ourselves, they probably are going to be formulaically better. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. It's just that you want to split your products amongst 6 different companies, or do you want to just like kind of stay with one? The more staying with one is easiest, no doubt. That's why so many people don't leave Citadel, because they already got all the Citadel stuff. So now and remember when we were first branching out back in the day, we ended up with like 4 Reaper Master Series paints that we had to have no matter what. And we felt like we couldn't paint without them. We also had like several GW paints. You had to have these or you felt like you couldn't paint. Also Vallejo. So we ended up with like all these paints from different companies all over the fucking place. And we felt like we couldn't paint without those paints. So the sooner you can get away from GW and into a new situation where it's all the same company, the easier. So Army Painter, if you already have a vast Army Painter air collection and you're already invested in their speed paint, it doesn't make sense to like start splitting up and going back to Vallejo.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. So
I don't know who this is marketed to, because it seems like it's just a straight, because like you need competition, right? So Citadel Paints competition has always been Army Painter. That's pretty much the history of Army Painter, why they exist.
I would say they're just as easy to find in stores.
And so they are like the GW alternative almost by branding. And so
it's almost like they used to work.
Almost like they used to work there. And and so that's their branding. That's not Vallejo's branding. So GW comes out with contrast paint. Army Painter comes out with contrast paint. That's their brand. Their brand is offering easier and more affordable solutions to the same hobby equations as GW, as a one-stop shop. That's their brand. So now you have a third person entering where that's not their brand. It's almost like, who's your fucking market? Vallejo painters aren't like the people who are Vallejo painters. Those aren't contrast painters, dude. Those guys are like, I use Vallejo because I watched this tutorial from a Golden Demon painter, and you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know how successful it's even going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be dope.
I mean, it's just one more thing to try at this point. And actually, if you think about it, when it comes to contrast alternatives, and we actually put the article out today about it, so you can find it if you want to find the links and stuff. It'll probably pop up on Google. There's Scale 75. There's Green Stuff World. There's now Vallejo. We got Army Painter, and we got the original contrast, the OG. So there's 5, all major distributors right now. I guess technically, except for AK, have a contrast alternative or a contrast themselves. And I guess technically Monument, but
somebody said Mig. They have one too.
Do they? I don't know. I don't think so. I could be wrong.
Maybe it was an answer. There's a question in chat like, "What's the best overall paint line?" And I just replied, "Monument Hobbies." Pro Krill.
Yeah, same here. Like, I think I wish I didn't already have existing paint schemes, for all my stuff that isn't. I mean, maybe I could get close, but
the thing is that's the indecision that freezes people from changing paint lines. Is that you have a collection that keeps getting deeper and deeper, and it's dialed into a specific formula that you've curated over the years. So you're basically in a sunk cost fallacy. Every hobbyist is at this moment, where you say like, I'm in too deep to make the correct decision. That's what a sunk cost fallacy is. This is the right decision, and I've gone too far to make that decision. So the longer you wait, the more that decision is harder to make. The right decision gets harder and harder to make the more years that pass. Where like if 5 years ago you made a decision, just to anyone out there to change paint companies or whatever, your collection that you're trying to color match would be like an eighth the size. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think
that's the hesitation every hobbyist has to interact with.
I already have all the monument paints, obviously, because he sends it to us to use. But maybe I'll figure out the recipes and stuff, and not have to have as much paint, as I have here. But I just don't paint as much anymore. Like I do things a little different, and I work in speed paint now. And I'm just not motivated to work on any of my armies right now, fortunately. So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're getting there.
I mean, you have a big collection of models, so like, ultimately, like whatever you're doing, if you're actually doing it, to anyone out there, unsolicited advice, because I teach as a major part of my business is like the 50% of my entire business is private education, and I've heard it all. Like, so when I say things like on Instagram, I'm not making it up. It's like literally a question someone's asked me who paid me $100 an hour to teach them how to paint. It's somebody who asked me that question while paying me for that knowledge. And it's happened so many times in a row that question is not a one-off question. It's a empirically proven common question.
That it becomes a trend.
And yeah, exactly. And so when I say things like, are you paralyzed through indecision on starting your next project? Do you have a bunch of models that you got really excited about, bought them, built them, primed them, and only like one squad is painted? And it's been a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months, a year. Like when I say those things, like, and I put those in reels all the time, I'm not guessing. That's literally why people come to my class. And so if the answer is no, that's not me, I have tons of painted stuff and I never let stuff sit that long. I don't care how you're getting it done. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Like 100%. Like I'm not going to reinvent a wheel. I'm not going to fix something that's not broken. Like you're fulfilling yourself and generating artistic validation in your life, and you are crushing it. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's speed paint, contrast paint. Oh fuck. Like.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. I did want to mention, speaking of painting projects, the Viking Knight that Kenny's been painting on is up for pre-order right now over on the 3D made-to-order marketplace. We've got the larger display scale versions, the 4-inch tall ones, the regular ones, even a bundle with the first knight, so you can reenact their epic duel from the fluff if you so desire. So that's a pretty cool looking little diorama. You can make up a nice little base for it and really have some fun. So those are up for pre-order now. They'll start shipping, as soon as we get all the orders in, do up a big batch of printing on it and get them all out to everybody, because we're only going to do one big batch of printing, because we kind of have to fit them in. That's just how the procedure works here at the manufactorum, so to speak. So if you're looking to get the Viking Knight and or a bundle with both poses and or the larger display scales, go ahead and get those pre-orders in now so we can figure out how many we need to produce over the next couple of weeks to get them out to everybody. We talked about this last week. Did GW re-FAQ'd the engagement range thing? By FAQ'd, I mean, they just took it out. So it doesn't exist anymore. How dope is that?
Well, it's funny because we were talking about results from a recent big event and how we heard a lot of, anecdotal evidence, about the engagement range rule getting a lot of press at that event. Mm-hmm. And though we said it's probably not nearly as big of a deal as it's made out to be, it is a objectively bad rules mechanic that was made with great intentions. And we broke down a little bit toward the end of last episode what that rule was. Not even worth talking about. Doesn't exist. So GW, gold star. They wrote a rule trying to fix something. They wrote it poorly, which sometimes they do, and sometimes they write the rules elegantly and precisely. They wrote it poorly with the best intentions, and now it's gone. The community has said, this is trash. Here's why. And remember, I even said, historically, that specific event we're discussing has been a hotbed for these types of things. And so they got to observe a busted rules mechanic there, and they had an opportunity to do something about it, which they did not even a week later. Shout out to GW, but I won't lie. I can't think of that. Rob was getting pretty triggered in the,
I would never.
But I will say it is rare that the FAQ is delete this rule. That's not common, but it's gone. So hell yeah.
Good things. They also put out another FAQ, which by the way, their FAQ page is still bricked. You can't get to it. You can get to the individual PDFs or, just Google them and you could probably find them, or the Warcom articles. They updated the Imperial Armor Compendium, all the chaos keywords for demons and chaos space marines and the knights and things. They updated all that. So that was really the crux of kind of that particular FAQ, I suppose. So that's good to go. And you can play with your cool toys if you have them. Pretty dope. And this week has been the big week of Magic the Gathering Commander previews for the big crossover with Warhammer 40K. And they're looking fresh. Magnus has a dope card. Mortarion has a dope card. We've seen the Abaddon, of course. Today's previews, I think, were the Necrons. I haven't looked at them yet. Tomorrow's previews will be the Imperium deck for all the cards in there. And there's some pretty fresh artwork, some cool new cards, some really cool older cards in the Magic series. Like I think the biggest one I saw so far that I think is gonna maybe make a difference is Abundance. If you know what that is, you know what that is, I suppose. But yeah, pretty cool art, and the flavor text is also pretty dope. They did a good job with it as well. I was kind of chuckling at some of the Tyranid ones because I was like, oh wow, they went really far back on that. That's cool. And it looked like some of the art was existing GW art too, and some of the art was new art. So it's kind of like a mix of stuff you might have seen that was still pretty dope, and some newer art too. So I definitely digging that. Right.
Pitch from chat just said, here, hot tip, switch to UK from US on the GW community, and the FAQs work again. Yeah,
I noticed their Argon, I think it's Argo, excuse me, their Argo thing is broken because it's broken on their web store too. Like they're having problems with the US and the UK version. Again, it's an ownership issue. Like this is basically web 101, y'all. Like shit like this shouldn't happen. Like
no, it shouldn't happen. But pro tip, anyone out there who doesn't want to like go through URLs and find the FAQ, you can switch to the UK. You can still see your FAQ.
That is good to know. Thank you for that, because I didn't try that for whatever reason. So I'll take ownership of that. Yeah, exactly. That's good. It's a good tip. So that's basically all the new. Oh, I guess we should talk about the Stormlight Archive Kickstarter that just crushed it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's up right now. Get your pledges in. There's a whole bunch of miniatures to be had. There's some larger bust style.
They've got statues.
Yep.
Big, like 100 millimeter figures and like 32 millimeter figures. And it's premium miniatures, Stormlight Archive premium miniatures. And this is official. This isn't a licensing deal. That's an important distinction to make. Okay. If you're a fan of Brandon Sanderson novels, Dragon Steel books in general, his publishing house, you will be happy to know that he didn't just send his license on over to Brotherwise, who also are awesome, and they are the creators of Boss Monster from back in the day.
They made a few good games.
Yeah, so it's not a license deal; it's a partnership.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction.
They work with the same creative directors, art directors, everything.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty true. I feel like. So yeah, that'll be going. I think it's over on October 13th. But hey, might as well pledge it now. I'm sure it's middle of the month. You might have some extra hobby dollars in your pocket. Go ahead and throw them over there and make it a really good success. Because spoiler alert, the highest grossing Kickstarter of all time was also Brandon Sanderson. So it'd be cool to see what those the 4 secret novels or whatever. It was like something silly, like $40 million or something. This is wild.
Oh my God.
So let's see what the miniature space can do. I know it's not going to be $40 million, but how dope would it be if it was like towards the top, in the top 10 of like highest grossing Kickstarters, like something for miniatures? Like that would be pretty neat.
I'm hoping that it's going to be that legit, because I'm also painting these live on Twitch.
Yeah.
I have the only ones on the market right now, and I've got STL prints, which this is not a STL Kickstarter. It's for plastic models. So I have 50 millimeter Shardplay, Adolin, and Dalinar, and 20 of them to give away that don't exist. So if you want to see these models being painted, hit me up on Twitch.
Yeah, I think we put a link to that in the announcement post too. So hopefully some folks will bounce over and check that out. I saw you started it on Friday.
I did. Dalinar is currently at this is secretly easy stage for all my fantasy book nerds out there who don't know how paint works. So first installment will go out in Reels and Instagram and YouTube Shorts and stuff like that for all my book nerds. So you don't have to go buy a bunch of paints and figure this shit out. Like literally, he is painted with 3 metal paints from Monument Hobbies and dry brushes. That's simple.
Yep. So that's going to be pretty dope. Now, what's going on tomorrow? Don't you have surgery tomorrow or some shit?
No, I was supposed to get my handwork done today. Actually, it got pushed
today.
Yeah, today, but it got pushed. And but because I'm going to Las Vegas Teams, I made them push it till the following Tuesday because of the nature of the procedure. I can't like be at Vegas with like a gaping hand wound.
Yeah, that seems like a good call. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
No, and some people in chat are curious. I have a what's called a felon finger infection, just like a.
Is it a Florida man thing? Under
the skin infection from a splinter I got, and I've had 1 million splinters. This never happened, and it might not even actually be a bacterial infection because I like the ortho looked at it, was like, yo, it's not even like, doesn't even look like it's swollen. Like this thought we need to operate, but like you might just not be. It might just be fluid in there. So so it's just weird. So it doesn't hurt, nothing, no fevers, like not red or angry. So, but regardless, if my finger's going to get sliced open in my left hand, luckily, and it's going to interact with my ability to do my job in some capacity. So nerve wracking nonetheless.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Well, good luck with all that. Give us some updates when it's happening on your Nurgles Rock.
Thanks, man.
I too have had the Nurgles Rock from time to time.
Yeah, you have.
It was an exciting time. So I hear the rumor is we have some Hobby AMA tonight. It's the word on the street.
Yeah, we have a Hobby AMA here tonight. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We sourced some questions. We get to do this every now and then. Wyatt's not here. He's still on the couch doing his thing. So it is also a slow news week.
It seems like every news week's a slow news week these days.
So we sourced some questions earlier, and we'll throw them out there right now and cite the person.
Cool.
So here's one for Rob right here. This is from Noster Rex. Quick question. Is there a Citadel Mega Paint still available to purchase? Mega Paint set. If not, suggestions on how to build a good set of Citadel paints. Rob?
So they haven't done one of those in a while. I think the last one was at Christmas time or something. They do tend to have one-click bundles, but I don't think there's anything up right now as far as that goes. In one-click bundles, you don't really save any money, right? So it's kind of lame. What I would suggest is maybe talking to your local game store, because a lot of those folks have, they're required to stock so many paints, they're 6 deep and shit like that. That if you're like, yo, I'm trying to get one of everything, or one of all the contrast, or, one of all the layers or something like that, I would venture a guess that they would cut you a significant discount. Because remember, stores can sell things for the price that they want. They just can't advertise that hey, I'm doing 20% off, 25% off, whatever. So if you have a reasonable store owner and he's pretty deep on paints, it's just like basically like a win-win maybe for him. So maybe approach him and see what they think. I don't think there's any other way to really kind of scoop up bundles right now as far as Citadel goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're not known for their deals in that capacity. Maybe there'll be something during the holidays. But I don't know. There's not a great way to collect them unless you're a millionaire.
I don't think anybody has all the Citadel paints besides stores at this point, to be quite honest with you. So.
Yeah. But also, if that question was asked some time ago, and we talked about other paints since then. So, major suggestion to Noster Rex, which is not answering the question, is a suggestion that you may just, if you're looking to spend that kind of money, you may just go to monumenthobbies.com and they offer bundle pricing and box sets, and they're 22 milliliter twist tops with a agitator and a seal, and they are $4.25 a pot. Not like that's full MSRP for twice as much paint, and it's better.
It's pretty much a win-win in my book.
Yes, sir. So let me move on right here. Cat Manju says, talk about 3D print STL that are available that excite you, which feeds into that Viking print, 3D art guy.
Yeah, that's a pretty clutch print. You can scoop up all the STLs from 3D art guy Patreon, and one of the MMF. I forget where he's at. I think it's MMF. My Mini Factory. He's over there too. You can scoop up his stuff. He doesn't always keep the stuff up on his page for reasons. A lot of 3D artists get a little nervous from
He's got a Patreon
time.
page as well.
Yep. So check that out. That's a pretty fresh print. He also has the Night of Vanity, I think he calls it. It's totally not Fulgrim. That one's a new release that's out there as well.
I'm excited about 3D art guy 100 millimeter prints. That's what's up.
A lot of folks buy those. They're great for terrain.
Man.
They're easy to work on. They're basically like a bust, but not really a bust.
I mean, it's the full model. Like busts are fun because they're really they're like for competitions. Honestly, like a bust is like, think about it. The model would be like this big. It'd be huge, right? Instead of painting that whole model, what you're really doing is you're just picking out a spot on the model and you're just trying to deploy art on it. Right. And I've never gotten into bust because I'm like, it's not a model. Like it's not even a figurine, but having something that's like bust size nearly, but be a full large scale figurine that is actually like made like a miniature though. Right. Cause they're different. Like large scale figurines they don't have that miniature look. So 3D art guy, he has STLs that I'm excited about.
Yeah, that stuff's good. I see it. I see a lot of stuff come through, and we help promote a lot of 3D artists. I personally like Galmic's stuff. He's always got a fresh take on things. Maker's Cult just redid their whole Trenchers line, which is always super dope. I'm always digging, it seems month after month, I'm digging Anvil Industries. They just reissued some more parts for the Ogre mech suit. Some close combat weapons, which are pretty cool. I dig those. I forget who does all the squat stuff, the squat alternatives, but those look great. I think we did a post on it, but we just did one on those. So if you're looking to pick up Votan on the cheap, hey, why not, right? That stuff looks great. I'm trying to think who is really motivated. Me personally, I'm motivated to print some alternatives Marvel Crisis Protocol figures because I love AMG, but their sculpts aren't always the comic book like kind of vision that I have for some of the figures. So I started prepping some of that because I want to have like some alternates, which is fine because I have the original bases and I have all the game aids because I had to buy the figures. It's just basically like an alternate figure. And let's face it, there's so many different comic book character costume outfits out there. Like they're never going to put them all out. So why not? Right. So that's what I've been kind of getting hyped to lately on the 3D.
Here's a follow up from Cat Manager as well. And this, I was waiting for this to answer your earlier question. He says, recommendations about 3D bases because I can't get secret weapon miniatures anymore. Elric's Hobbies. It's not 3D, it's not 3D printed STLs or anything, but Elric's Hobbies is base city for a really competitive price. And I'm waiting on my 100 millimeter Celtic base from Elric's to finish my 100 millimeter not Lehman Russ.
Viking Knight, Celtic Knight. Yeah. There we go. That's going to be fresh.
So that's where I do them. I don't really mess with 3D printed bases because I feel like I've never gotten a 3D printed base that didn't have flaws in the perfection of the round rim that I require. Like it's a total OCD. Like they need to be like GW bases, like perfect, polished. You know what I mean? Like that reflective plastic. Like that's what I want. Because ultimately, like that'd be that crisp. So when I'm working with resin bases for manufacturers, sometimes there'll be a little mold slippage, and you'll see there'll be a lip there. But I find that like really hard resin, like super hard resin, is really it's different because they're always going to be smooth and shiny, and you can just sort of sand that one spot that isn't, and it looks just as shiny. So that's like a personal idiosyncrasy of like I don't like 3D printed basing as a solution when Elric's exists for so fucking cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
and they got so many different designs too.
Yeah, so cheap. Let's run it back to John Van Zelm says, when assembling Space Marine intercessors, do you glue on the tiny accessories like bags, holsters, icons, and seals before priming, or paint them separately and glue them on later?
I always just like assembling everything, unless it's like, keeping off armor plates or shoulder pads or backpacks, I think you could make that argument, but I could see where you get glue all over your paint jobs with stuff that small. What do you think?
Yeah, I glue them bitches on. Like, unless it's something that you need to that you need to airbrush separately, like Rob mentioned shoulder pads. Like if you're doing if you have the option to leave the shoulders off, right? And you're painting an army that's shoulders are a completely different color than the rest of the model. Yeah, airbrush them up. Backpacks, same thing. If the backpacks are completely different color, if the helmets are different color, yeah. But nah. Like I'm not leaving ammo pouches and grenades and shit off. Just glue them up, prime it all, paint them on there. Because here's the other thing. They're already glued on. It's already like half of your how to hold a little grenade belt and paint it solution because it's on the guy. But simultaneously, you're not going to be tempted to paint parts of the fucking ammo pack you can't see now. You know what I mean? So it's actually like really fucking easy to paint. And you're not going to be tempted to paint parts of the Space Marine you can't see now. Like what's the ammo pack is glued to. You know what I'm saying? So, glue them on. Yeah,
that's what I would do.
And simultaneously, too, a lot of people with the bolter across the chest, I see a lot of people on the internet leave the arms and the bolter off, and then they put those on after. And I'm like, why? Oh, because I can't paint the Aquila. It's like, yeah, you can. You can paint the part you can see.
Yeah, exactly. Why paint shit you're not going to see?
If his arm is up against the Aquila and you can't see the Aquila part, you only need to paint the quarter of an inch you can see. And now, like Rob said, you have to interact with trying to glue shit back together, and sometimes you're fucking
it's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. And now you gotta mount the little arms and shit. I'm like, nah, man. Also, now you're trying to paint the inside of the arm. You can't see the inside of the arm because it's up against the chest. Again, I'm never going to be tempted by things I don't see.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, run it back to War Pigment. Do you use any products that are not intended for hobby? I bet Rob does.
Oh gosh, probably. Let me look around real quick. I have these little mini fans. These lights technically aren't hobby. They're for, desks and things. Those shakers are for test tubes or whatever, right? Those paint shakers. Those are pretty wild. I'm sure there's a slew of things we use that weren't intended for the hobby specifically. I mean, but that's what makes it fun.
I use soft emery boards.
Yeah, you can use those too.
That's like I use them a lot. Like I have a pack of them, like the high quality ones from Sephora that are like soft foam, but like they're two sides like rough and thin. I use them to wet sand things like crazy.
Silly putty, you know. Yeah, there's a slew of things. I can't think of all of them right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I use that many things that are not for a hobby, ultimately. Because, like, if it's hobby-centric, it's probably better than not hobby-centric, like, for our hobby. But there are some things for sure. Like, I use that emery board over every file ever made.
Yeah. I'm plastic bristled toothbrushes, too.
Oh, yeah,
for,
straight
like,
up
just
toothbrush.
cleaning off anything that's plastic, just so you can, like, clean off all the, like, flash and plastic crap to actually see your miniature, you know. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean,
a lot of people use pill bottles. A lot of people use pill bottles.
For model holders.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, the water. What is it? Your paint pot palette or your paint? What, the water bottle top?
Oh, water bottle lids. Yeah, the lids.
See, I would say you use that the most.
I use that a lot. Literal trash. Literal garbage.
Literal garbage.
And I'm not just for paint. I use them for like, I'll put like a pile of super glue in them so I can like dip a thing I need to put super glue on perfectly in there. And I also have like a collection of busted paintbrushes that I'll like actually paint the super glue on something. Like, you know, so I can get it perfect, right? So I use those as disposable little eggshells endlessly. So yeah, that's a good reminder, Rob. Let's run it back to, here's Luminous. And this is something I remember, I thought this was a pretty good question. It says, how do you feel about the fairly recent emergence of alternatives to acrylic, such as oils and enamels? And do you use any of them? Do you like the grimdark style painting? This is a good one. This is something that comes up in my lessons all the time. And he's not wrong. There is a popularity right now in oil painting. Yep. So though oil painting is not new, it comes and it goes in popularity and trends, in miniature painting. And then the enamel game, that's been around for a staple is large scale figurines and scale painting for a long time, since dawn of time. I don't use enamels. It's not for what we do. I use water-based paints that are blendable and don't require solvents to clean up, and only require water to blend. That's it. Oil painting. Oil is a really good paint. It's a dope delivery method for a pigment. I did a lot of oil painting in my training, but I don't really use it in that capacity for miniatures. I find it to be like not required. Like there's the elements of oil that make it different and potentially more vibrant or have more depth are really not a thing that, in my opinion, is that observable on a miniature, right? As far as curating your paint job. It's great in canvas. It's eye-catching. But nothing oil paint does, I can't do with acrylic faster. Like, and even the things people think acrylic is incapable of, like pigment ratios, densities and stuff, I can achieve that result with a little bit more effort. So I tend to value the water-based component, the speed component, the dry time component. That's my value assessment. That is what I require. Now, in the wash department, oil products exist forever, like oil grimes, oil washes as well. And I do use oil. I do use them in that capacity. I think having a lineup of oils that you use as washes and learning how to use odorless spirits is a good hobby tool, and it is useful in your Beats lab. But it's not right for every project at all. But it is right for some of them. As a matter of fact, the Space Viking, the Viking Knight, I used an oil wash on him.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But you know, in conclusion, do you like the grimdark style painting? No. What I like is well executed weathering and aesthetically designed chipping. Okay, and so the grim dark style is typically an over usage of all the products I just listed, right? Like these streak and grime effects, these rust bottles, these like all these things, and I define these as gimmicks, right? And I've triggered a lot of people on my live stream saying that, and I'm like, Doug, it's all a gimmick. Like I don't mean it in like an insult. Like wash is a gimmick, right? It makes the dark stuff darker and tries to deploy a filter that is okay. Like, well, technically anything that is a pigment suspended in liquid does that. Like all of it does that. So paint already does everything that your gimmicks do already. It's just that what you're doing is you're buying in on a gimmick. And if it's good enough, then you can actually create a shortcut that is attainable and sustainable in your workflow. I use many gimmicks. Okay. Now, the Grimdark community and style is mostly populated by an over usage of those gimmicks, not executed with effort, and they don't look good because they fail to deliver the one objective rule of art, in my opinion, which is contrast. Contrast meaning perceivability. Can I understand what I'm looking at?
Lights and darks.
Yeah, like for miniatures, it's traditionally and most impactfully going to be from light and dark values. How are the dark things suitably dark and bordered and framed, and are the bright things suitably bright? That's your number one asset in something that's 32 millimeters. And that's the most important one. So when you are doing that cleanly and precisely over a nice, clean paint job, it looks amazing. When you are using all those gimmicks to generate shortcuts with no effort, you're sacrificing contrast. And so what I like, again, is not that. What I like is curated weathering and chipping and scratches and rust stains that are aesthetically pleasing, meaning you didn't leave it to chance. You didn't just guess. You didn't just throw these products down or move them around a little bit, right? What these guys who make the really nice grimdark models are doing is they're painting a showroom quality fucking Space Marine. And then they are applying the concept of an effect to it. They are making it appear as if it's gone through hell. It's got dirt on it. It literally doesn't have dirt. It's literally not scratched. The enamel is not ripped off and the under armor is showing. None of that is real. Those are effects. So when you do that deliberately and with effort and aesthetically, that is dope, right? That I love that style.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
But the internet, people typically don't post pictures of their models on the internet to be told that they need to improve or that it doesn't look that tight. What they want is they want to post a picture of their model on the internet and they want somebody to say how good it looks. Right? That's
true too. Unless it's in a live stream like whip gallery or something.
For them, I'm saying in general, not everyone. Yeah. It's a false assumption if applied to everyone. So what happens is communities are created through this very normal human behavior, which is to follow the path of least resistance to the validation outcome you want. And so if you don't want to be told your model doesn't look good because you didn't do enough effort to make it good, then what you will do is slide down another subreddit, slide down another Facebook group until you are being told it looks great, amazing. And so then communities are born out of that methodology. And so there's an entire grimdark community that I do not get along with on the internet.
Yeah, but I mean, it's cool to see that. I mean, art is subjective in general, right?
No. That comes up all the time in my classes too, right? People say that to me all the time. Well, this is all subjective, right? It's all opinions. It's like, no, man, it really isn't. Art's bad if everyone says it's bad. Period.
Well, yeah.
If no one buys your album, it's bad music. If no one buys your book, it's a bad book. Like straight up. And I've distilled this. So that's objectively bad. And I've distilled it down to one objective rule because style is subjective, right? But there are rules to writing that if you don't follow those rules, it's crap, right? They're straight up rules. Rules to lighting in film, right? There's like literally rules. If you don't follow them, it's crap. So in art,
audio,
in all things, writing, painting, fucking songwriting, the one rule that transcends everything is contrast, right? And contrast doesn't mean just bright and dark stuff, okay? For us, that's our best tool. That's not all there is, though. Contrast, if you think of it in terms of digestibility, viewability, comprehension, kind of understandability, that's what we mean. For a song, it could simply be, do I understand the lyrics? Is that beat fresh? You know what I'm saying? Like, is the guitars too loud? There's all these things. Can I jive with the subject material? You can get, esoteric with contrast. You know what I mean? You can get juxtaposition. But ultimately, if it's understandable to the audience or perceivable, that is objective. You can't have good art without that. And so I preach the fuck out of that. In miniatures, let's stop overcomplicating it. Okay? Like Golden Demon is a thing, is a different story, is a different world. They're applying 2D art techniques to 3-dimensional models. We are painting coloring books, and just remember kindergarten. Who was the best colorer? The guy who stayed inside the lines, strong borders, and clean fades in between, baby. That dude was the number one guy. Everyone wanted to be him. That's all you got to do.
I wanted to be the dude that can blow bubbles with my gum.
Yeah, God, I still can't. But so ultimately, I don't try to train artists. That's ridiculous. I technically instruct people on how to curate a miniature to the 80th percentile very fast. That will garner them the validation that they are seeking. And everyone wants to feel good. And that's the best part of art, is having someone tell you how dope your art is.
Yep.
So that was one for me. I knew I was going to go off on that one. Thank you, Luminous. Let me kick this one back over to Rob. Xantron 9000. I only have mousepad battle mats. What are opinions on cloth or the other kind, PVC or whatever battle mats?
I like the neoprene mousepad stuff. There's enough people out there that you can get whatever you need. But Mats by Mars has this really great vinyl that it doesn't scratch anymore. They went to a new formula, and I haven't tried it on mine, but supposedly after like 2021, their new formula, you can crunch it up and it'll lay flat again, is what they were telling me. And I played with a little at Adepticon, but I haven't done it on my own stuff. So they've got pretty good things, and the cost, is way better compared to the neoprene mats for sure. And you can get overlays with like different objectives. Like if you play Marvel Crisis Protocol, you can get the alphabet soup already pre on the map, so you don't have to spend a bunch of time measuring out your objectives. Same with 40K. They have 40K overlays. So it's pretty dope. Can't really do it for Sigmar because they're always in random spots, but I would definitely check those out. I don't know about cloth, but if I was going to go with something else, which I have, I would do the vinyl. Well, it's not a true vinyl. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's not vinyl like it's a vinyl sticker on a card. Right. But it is a vinyl.
It's some sort of vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Good answer. Rob is in the know on most things like that. He's kicking it back. Let's go. We got Garris. Says, here's an AMA one. Do you find money spent equal better hobby supplies, knives, brushes, clippers? So I think it's like an equal ratio. It's like, is that like you get what you pay for kind of question?
In this hobby, 100%. Like, try to buy the best of everything you can and take care of it. And Monument has that really good brush soap that you should use after every paint session. And if you...
Yeah, okay, so you get what you pay for. Money spent. Okay, money spent equals the good stuff. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
generally.
No, that is not the case in our hobby.
What?
That is not the case. Because first off, Citadel paints. They're $8 a pot. That's not tight.
I thought we were talking about like supplies, like tools and shit.
That's an example.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Like maybe specifically clippers. I don't know.
So I guess I have to caveat that because
you're right. Because let's go with your answer. There's
like paintbrushes that are like $80. Why? There's no reason for that. And that's why I never talk about them, because I'm like, dude, you can't convince me that your $80 dry brush set is worth fucking $80. Get the fuck out of here.
There you go. So yes, there is a cutoff of maximum quality attainability. And then there is a moment where it's incremental. So I always like the analogy I use is like horsepower. Like everyone who was a kid and in the same years I was a kid who had a car knew that you can get a few horsepower for pretty cheap on your car if you were into Fast and the Furious, right? you can get a couple hundred more horsepower, right? But then it starts to be a diminishing return. A couple $1,000s for a few more horsepower. You know what I'm saying? So we experience a similar ratio here, right? It's a similar phenomenon with weightlifting to body, like strength to body weight ratio. Like you can't lift as much weight off the ground as Hathy or Bjornsson can unless you're as heavy as him. But realistically, he's only pulling a little bit more off the ground than a guy who weighs 100 pounds less than him. But that guy can never do it. So these is diminishing returns on how big you have to be to get more out of it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Ain't no paintbrush is $80.
No. Not even $50. Like
but $20 to $30 is kind of a critical mass price range.
Or even any of the sets of monument brushes for like $40, or the Winsor Newton stuff for like $10 to $20 a brush is good too. Just take care of it.
And to answer Garish, if it's a $50 brush, is it 5 times better than $10 brushes? It is not. No. But it is better. That's my point. Hathy or Bjornsson is stronger, right? But then when you go into pound for pound, he's not stronger than anybody. He's literally like the weakest person there, right?
I would say just stick with the mid-range stuff, for sure. Like, the Citadel clippers are good. Don't get me wrong. They're like $30, but there's other clippers that are $20 that are good. Or if you want to spend $50 on the God Hand clippers from, Tamiya or whatever.
Like you have to be at and just like in those sports, you have to be at an elite level to have those gains matter. You know what I'm saying? So I would say for most people in the world, a single paintbrush that costs $20 is the most amount of money you should probably spend.
Yeah. Unless it's from a brand that you want to support because they're doing whatever fundraiser.
That goes for everything. Donate to things all day, every day. But a single paintbrush that costs $20 is solid. That's a solid unit.
That's about
and
where
most people are going to get something out of that. You're going to notice that it's more solid, right? You're going to see that it's more solid. And $10 and above, that is a place that you can usually trust the brush is okay, that the brush will be dope. There are some exceptions to that rule, and I use the same analogy with airbrushing. 99% of people don't need to spend too much more than $100 in airbrush, but you should never spend less. Like $100 to $150 to $180 to $200, that's when you start creeping into diminishing return territory. Like, are you able to get those returns back out of the airbrush? But never spend less than $100. It's almost certainly a trash airbrush, right? Same thing with paintbrushes. Clippers, same thing. Brush soap, same thing. There's a window for everything, you know what I'm saying? And luckily, we talk about Monument Paint so much. I like his clippers. His clippers are great. Nice clean cuts, really sharp.
Yep.
He's got a good scraper that's for 3D prints specifically. It gets those nubbins off. He's got the best brush soap I've ever used. So that's actually a really good point. What else do you use besides that stuff?
From Monument?
No, period. What's a tool that you think of that comes up all the time?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe the airbrush thing. Do you need a harder steam back airbrush when you could get an Iwata? And, that's a personal choice.
Well, there's also a price ratio. I stand by it. 180. Once you get to $200 range, 180 and above, you are getting into the territory where you might not be able to make that equipment do the thing it's supposed to do better than the $150 version because you haven't gotten there yet. Now, I'm not saying you should ever buy some cheap shit. You shouldn't. That's why I have the caveat of don't look at an airbrush that's MSRP is under $100 unless it's a special bonus discount that week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, H&S has of the Ultra. It's like 109. That's a pretty solid brush.
That's in my range.
Yeah.
Not less than 100. Unless it's a weekly special or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Because you also have to realize that the guy who's selling you a $20 paintbrush is confidently selling you a $20 paintbrush. And so you could typically be confident in that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because if this is trash, the reviews are going to reflect that. $20 for a crap paintbrush. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. But in general, beyond hobby equipment, it's hard. That question is even more complex because it's absolutely not what you get what you pay for in the hobby. There's hidden gems everywhere. Rob is a master. Don't you have like a supply list of that kind of stuff on Spikeybiz?
Yeah, we do. It's a very top right corner. Just click on my stupid face. You'll see the recommended hobby supply list. There's some good stuff in there. I use it all.
Fuck Warhammer Gods, I think is how I say it. He says, what is the single greatest hobo tech you use?
Well, this is a question for you.
I don't use hobo tech. You do.
What are you talking about? You literally coined the term.
Okay, fine. You're right. You're right. Honestly, just having a bucket in your beat slab to wash your airbrush out in.
/P into.
The hobo sink.
Yes.
What I currently like is Crystal Geyser 1 gallon jugs. Because the Crystal Geyser is like a steepled top. Okay? And it's a square, angular square. So it's not like a circle or anything. It's a square with a steepled top. After I finish that Crystal Geyser off, I just slice that top off, invert it, shove it right back in the square. So now it's a funnel. And it's a gallon. And so that's been my hobo tech for years. It started as a repurposed mixing bowl. Bonet was not happy about that. And then now it's Crystal Geyser, literal garbage, but it's dope.
Yeah. Yeah. I just use a little Chinese takeout food container to.
And Penny Duff is like, show it like on the show.
Oh, geez. I mean, you got liquid in it?
It's not that full. It's like half. It's right here. I also throw my wet palette sheets in the top of it for a couple days, and then it fills up. So it's also a trash can. And then I just take the little lid out and dump that. And then also, you can urinate in it while you're live streaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at that wide nozzle, that wide mouth.
Yeah. That's why you got to turn it into a funnel like that, So that I would say that discovery, the hobo sink has been a major linchpin of the airbrushing operation. Because before this, it was like those little containers that you spray into that have like a little like filter on them. I don't know what they're called. Washout.
Oh yeah, the glass jar.
Damn, dude! I bought that I was like, this is so obnoxious. I hate this. It doesn't do anything. And then finally, I had something near me and I just dumped it in there. And then I was like, okay, yeah, fuck this thing.
Yep. There he goes.
Yeah.
Done with it.
Yeah. So run it back to Jake Martin says, do you or can you support your hobby lifestyle doing strictly commissions and or your channels? It's a Hobby AMA. I mean, yeah, we both do.
I guess, well.
Okay, strictly? Okay, maybe not strictly.
It's a little bit more robust.
I mean, everything we do is hobby-centric.
Right.
But if I was utterly reliant on the income from my Twitch channel and my YouTube channel, no. I would personally struggle.
Yeah, in 2022, you have to have multiple sources of revenue, definitely, because as you grow, you can only get so big at each of those places, right? So you're gonna have to have another income stream, and usually, every business tops off, and then you figure out the pivot and where you can kind of meander and provide value for your audience, and also provide, some sort of content and return situation for revenue of some sort, and everybody does it. Everybody gets into different things.
Nothing lasts forever too. That's another thing is like,
yeah, there'll be some.
So like if you have a good year on Twitch, you need to know that nothing lasts forever. So every part of your job is to expand, is to diversify. Like Rob was saying, you have to. I started as a commission painter, and I did sustain my life entirely as a commission painter.
Yeah,
but you also have to consider that, like, regionally, I lived in a trailer that I paid lot rent on. $200 a month was my rent. Right?
Don't have any kids.
Didn't have any kids. Didn't have a wife. Had almost no bills. So I was able to start under that pretext. And now as I grew it, I was able to upgrade my style, my lifestyle. But there is a ceiling. So but yes, you can actually do it on commission painting, but you have to realize that it is, as a singular human who is commission painting, it's a lot of work, and there is an absolute income ceiling. And so that's why like I do what I do today. That's that diversification. So commissions, I was commissioning, twitching, and YouTubing and podcasting all at the same time. So that's kind of where all roads lead if someone's trying to break into this industry.
Yeah, and just keep in mind too, like, that business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like, everybody wants to get notoriety and get rich quick overnight, and it just doesn't work like that, y'all. Like, you have to grind it out. You have to put that sweat equity in. When I pivoted to doing Spiky Bits publishing as a full-time thing for the first year or two, I barely made $1,200 a month myself, and that's garbage money.
Yeah, that's your income, $1,200.
I was a single dude, no kids. I was able to make it work, and those hours were very long. And it's not for everybody, and you will get discouraged. You have to have very tough skin, and there's not a lot of positive reinforcement for you out there, as we saw with the whole Faces of Warhammer thing. So you have to be very motivated. You have to realize that you are going to get in, and it is going to be a grind for a decent amount of time.
Yep. But it is possible. It can be done.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Crush and Full. Where can I buy that Lehman Russ model you were painting 3 streams ago? That's another question. SpikyBiz.com. Hit up the 3D made to order. Click down, get it on pre-sale. It's on pre-order right now.
Right meow.
Noah R says, do you think the setup for the next big baddie, do you think the setup for the next big baddie, do you think it's Jagati Kong or Lehman Russ need to kick the bucket in the warp if the bad comes from the warp?
I mean, they're both like lost in the warp. I think Jagatai is something with a Dark Eldar, I believe, and Lehman Russ is like for the Wolf Time, and apparently went off with the 13th Company, but then they came back. But where's Lehman Russ? I don't know. I think we'll see Lehman Russ ahead for sure. Like, he's just that iconic.
Is he also asking which one's going to die? Or is there a new
die? I don't know. I don't think any of them are going to die if Gino can help it, because they got to make that money on some models.
I mean, I can see Lehman Russ first. I don't know. A lot of people speculate on that kind of stuff. I just try to roll with the punches on that kind of thing. I think it's an unknown.
Whatever it is, it'll probably look dope.
Exactly.
That's a cat.
Let's go to KR Quinn. Is the Grex airbrush that Monument sells compatible with Grex needles, tips, etc.? Mentas, low fuse.
Yeah, it's the same. It's I believe is it the TG, or I forget which one. It's the pincer grip one, or the trigger grip one. Excuse me. It's the same. I think he he wanted them to change like one or two things on it, and they did, but it still works all the stuff. I think they even sell a like refill kit or a needle kit. Let me go check what the monument. But I believe the answer is yes. I've used that airbrush. It's
I mean, they make that. I mean, it's not a new brush they manufacture.
Yeah, he sells replacement needles and the nozzles and the whole kit for both. But I'm sure because, it's the same as the Grex.
Mm-hmm. That was also my answer. Fish Face Frank says, how often do you clean your brushes? And if you do, is it Dirty Mike and the Boys style, or do you use brush soap? Every day. Every time. Every day. Every time I'm done painting. Okay, again, maybe not every time I'm done painting, but, sometimes in a day, you might be done painting 5 times, right? Like you paint a little bit.
Oh, right. Okay.
So like if I do a painting session, it is my goal to brush soap every time. And every time I forget to, I pay for it and I notice it and it pisses me off. So it's either at the end of every session or the beginning of every session, period. Always with brush soap. That is much better.
Agreed.
And it's really it's not hard to do. It's real easy.
Yep.
Benjamin Van Wormer says, could be a good question to answer that I think a lot of us suffer through. What's an ideal way to prevent airbrush clogging? Whether it be consistent way to thin or something like a wet sponge.
Well, so I think first of all, it's all about technique. Use flow improver. Try to clean your airbrush. You don't always have to clean your airbrushes too. That's kind of like a fallacy too. Like as long as you're not putting crap into there and letting stuff dry, you can just run a little water through there, and it should, in theory, keep your stuff pretty good. Now, what I use, now Kenny soaks his stuff in soaks his stuff a lot in shot glasses. But what I do is I just use this Grex cleaner. I still use Grex cleaner. This is super concentrated, so only use a drop or two of it. Fill up your reservoir with water. Put a couple of this in. Pull your needle back, and kind of use it as a plunge to work all that through and kind of clean, and then put a bunch of water through it at the end of your session. If you think it's sticking, or you let some stuff dry in there, that's
if you airbrush like every day, all day, every day, that's where the simple green method came from, right? I was airbrushing 10 hours a day, man. So like instead of any of this bullshit, I just have a glass with simple green and water in it, and I just put the whole airbrush in there after doing a light clean, like Rob said. So basically, it's like barbershop rules. Like if it's always wet in a solvent, paint can't dry, right? And then so I pull the airbrush out, run water through it until the bubbles stop and all the soap's gone. Keep airbrushing, put it back in there. Now, when I get a new airbrush, which happens, that it takes a long time before that occurs again because I don't airbrush 10 hours a day anymore. I will do exactly as Rob says, where I will airbrush a little bit, run water through it, plunge it. That's a big tip, is loosening the back nut and pull the needle all the way out of the tip and put it back in, pull it back out, and just gently let the paint that's around the needle that's held up against the sidewalls of the tip be able to be accessed by cleaner. Because that's ultimately where like that clog occurs, is inside that little tip. So as long as you can let the cleaner get through that and bust it out, man, you can get away with murder. So here's the thing. Meticulous cleaning of your airbrush does not solve clogs if you're not using paint correctly in your airbrush. I don't care how meticulous you are with your airbrush. That's not going to change your consistent flow experience day by day painting. You can come to me, which again, I don't say anything that hasn't been said to me hundreds of times in classes. Okay? You can do it perfect. Clean it. Ultrasonic cleaner. I don't give a fuck. If you're not thinning your paints correctly, you're always going to have clogs. And those aren't true clogs. Those are the airbrush is unable to push the paint through the tip. and it stutters on you, and it seems clogged, and it sort of works, then it doesn't work, and then it sort of works again, and then it doesn't. That doesn't necessarily mean you have debris obstructing the flow of air.
Yeah, it could be the paint's dry on your tip.
Or that it's literally just too thick.
That too.
I tell everyone, 9 out of 10 times, your airbrush is clogged because put more water in it. Then you're paint down more. That's 9 out of 10. 1 out of 10 times is it actually a chunky artifact that is dislodged from some paint cap or something that's stuck in your tip inside the aperture, and paint can't get around it. Okay?
That happens very infrequent.
So it doesn't matter how meticulous at cleaning you are. You will still have airbrush clogging occur while in session if you're painting too thick. Most people are raw dogging or close to it, and they're trying to paint opaque out of their airbrush. Don't. Challenge yourself to thin it down more. That usually fixes everything. And to Rob's point about the plunger, having access to your back needle and being able to move it through that aperture a little bit almost also is all you need to do to fix a real clog in session, as Rob knows. You're airbrushing, it's clogged, right? Sometimes all you gotta do is loosen that nut, back the needle out, blast it on your desk a little bit, and a little chunky piece of paint that's dried in there will fly right out. And
that's also true.
So those are like the main, like water, and I say water because I use mostly water. Like I use some flow improver to slow the dry time down. But when I'm talking about lowering the opacity, I use mostly water. So water and flow improver. If it's too thick, put more water. That's usually going to fix it. If it's actually clogged, back the needle out a little bit, blast it on your desk, ramrod it like Rob was saying, plunge it. That'll probably fix it. If neither of those fix it, meticulously clean it. Go back to square one. But typically, it's just too much fucking paint and not enough moisture.
Yep.
Somebody in chat asked Windex. Not Windex.
Nope. Never once. Do not atomize chemicals that you are going to breathe in.
Yeah, don't put ammonia into the atmosphere of your room. And also, that's an old school tip from a group of hobbyists who don't know how to airbrush from 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe even 20.
Maybe even 20. Don't put alcohol in your airbrush. Don't thin paints with alcohol. Don't thin paints with Windex.
No. This stuff works, trust me. I didn't believe Kenny at first either.
I mean, and you can use alcohol as, like, if you have like 99 ISO, you can actually just run a little of that through your airbrush at the end of a session too. Yeah,
but I mean, you're going to be breathing it in, so be aware of that.
Yeah, it's alcohol. Though. It's not ammonia. It's an irritant. Like
yeah.
So like, be aware of that too.
It's literally flammable at 53 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you have a flash.
Yeah. I run a little ISO through my brush at the end of a session somewhat frequently. Like I clean it almost all the way out. I'll put a little 99 ISO, not 60, not 70, because that shit breaks up paint quick. And I'll just like kind of finish it off with the plunger. Just, if I'm not going to soak it,
Yep.
And also, we live in mask culture now, so, wear a mask. Isaac White says, what are your thoughts here you go, Rob, on trigger airbrushes?
I mean, I think they're good for folks with, arthritis or just like if you're used to shooting or, if you were trained on that originally. It took me a long time to learn the pincer grip, I guess they call it, like the traditional airbrush. And once I did, I'm glad I did. But, it's not for everybody. So just go with what you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. If you have excessively large hands, like you got ogre hands, you wear like XL gloves and shit like that. That to me, that's what it's for. Like if you just have big ass hands, and I've worked with students with big ass hands because I have a lot of like TED talk about why someone with a pistol airbrush literally could never be as accurate and as finesse as me with a pincer grip. Like, and I've got diagrams in human anatomy and mechanics to prove it.
That's fair.
But simultaneously, there is a margin there of diminishing return, right? So it's totally fine to use until you get to this spot where you're trying to push through to this level, then you're going to struggle. But simultaneously, if you have big ass hands, you will never get what you want out of the pincer grip. You will never be able to get your long finger, your huge bear mitts into a position that is comfortable, that will eliminate muscle strain and stuff like that. Simultaneously, a lot of people do experience muscle fatigue in the pincer grip because of either conditions they already have in their joints, and that also is a totally why you should go to a pistol grip. If you're in that category, you have these conditions already, a carpal tunnel, repetitive strain, like stuff like that, it will utterly help you with that. But also, there are right ways and wrong ways to hold your airbrush. Sign up for my classes to learn more.
Click here.
Straight up, it's the first lesson.
I think your classes are worth it, bro.
But Jason Craze uses a pistol grip airbrush. Does a fucking killer job with it. See what I'm saying?
He also used it for years to airbrush bikes. So
yeah,
he's got the practice.
Yep. But I try to get people on the top trigger as soon as I possibly can. And I upsell the shit out of it. And I try to prove it with my digital lecture in my first lesson as often as possible. And most people, they do end up making the switch. But, but I also have some ogres for friends. So, here we go. I think this might be our last one for the evening. Raising Rune Lords. How would someone who is interested in becoming a commission painter go about getting started with that? There you go, Rob.
Well, it's all about, putting yourself out there, like hitting the socials pretty hard. We do have the Spiky Bits Hobbies Facebook group. I think there's like 30,000 members in that. And we feature some of our favorites every week out of that group, so that would get you in front of people on the site. So it's always good to post in there, what you're working on and such. And, just being, you just gotta, hit the streets, so to speak. Like, you got to get out there. You got to be engaging, and reply back to folks and just really put yourself out there. And it's not for everybody, but
the reason I sent it to Rob is because marketing, right?
Yeah.
Rob is a prolific marketer, and part of my personal success in commission painting was being friends with Rob in our intro of our simultaneous growth, right? Mm-hmm. Was Rob's platform is a marketing platform, and my platform is essentially a branding platform, right? I am my brand. Okay. That is all I am. Right. And brands are about trust, and they take time. There's no shortcut to branding.
No.
Right? Marketing, there is a brute force mechanic to it, while also an overlap with branding.
Right.
Simultaneously.
I would argue to say that on both.
No, they both share, they're in a Venn diagram, and there's an overlap, 100%. Me and Rob have come up together, and jokes that we've made over the years was complementary and overlapping skills.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to learn that in real time with Rob, because, we were both at the beginning of our journey all those years ago, and seeing those mechanics play out is one of the most beneficial things. When Rob says get out there, you need exposure, right? Now,
you really do.
Yeah. You need eyes on your product. Now, a lot of people used to try to trade exposure for models and money and stuff like that. You don't want to get into that relationship, but
it can be a trap.
But unless it is a actual demographic that they are exposing you to that is viable. Like, it kind of doesn't matter if the biggest YouTuber in the world is going to feature your fucking commission painting studio if he talks about Legos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I tell a lot of folks when they come to me with a project or something, I'm like, hey, yeah, we can talk about it, but you know, it isn't gonna do as well as this other project on here, because that's not what the readership's into. You know, you might want to consider talking to this platform or this platform over here. Excuse me, because I kind of know who's dialed into what. But knowing your audience is big, but I would say most importantly above everything is just be ready to grind, be ready to, you know, you're going to have to put just as much time into promoting your stuff as you are painting your stuff.
We're talking 50 cents an hour for a year. That's, I mean, that's how much money you make.
Well below minimum wage. And I don't even know what minimum wage is.
I mean, you'll be like pulling in commissions and making money and stuff, but like, you know, so don't look at the hours, the dollars per hour. It's right. 50 cents an hour. It's bad.
It's not, it's not a good look.
But you have to hustle like that's good money. Like you have to hustle like it's good money. You have to be exposed. So me hanging out with Rob in the old days, I was getting exposure. Like I was grinding and I was branding and I was trying to build trust in my brand, and you know, posting on socials every day, on forums, all the stuff everyone knows. You know, post here, post there. I was doing that. That's baseline, right? But like, it doesn't matter if you're posting every day on your Instagram page with 15 followers. Like, if there's no other mechanic to help people find you, like there has to be funnels everywhere. So
and don't be afraid to pivot too, because like, you know, now a lot of artists are hitting ceilings because they don't want to pivot to doing reels and doing shorts, and you can't be afraid. Like the platform is going a certain way. You have to pivot to continue to grow. And that's very important too. So always be cognizant of the trends and what's going on around you as well, because how you did and how you promoted yourself a year ago is not going to be the same. And I mean, I can 100% tell you that about my platforms. It changes year to year, sometimes 6 months to 6 months.
Yeah.
So you just got to be ready for it.
You gotta be ready to move around. But yeah, as a commission painter, like that's a lot of like not answer. So here's the answer: get an Instagram page.
Yep. Oh, right? Yeah. Get all the platforms.
You start simple. I won't even make it hard. Get an Instagram page. Figure out the name of your studio. Make it matter to you. Make it a good name. But also, you don't need to be like too overthinky on it. If it's a cool name, our industry supports weird, wacky names. Like,
that's true.
You know, like Dustbusters Painting. Like, it doesn't matter. Like Mothman Legacy's Painting. It doesn't matter. Go with your heart. Get a name that matters to you. And get a logo.
Yep. Get
it curated. Pay somebody if you have to. Learn, you know, or whatever. You want to enter the market with a brand name and a logo to back it. And you can just go to Instagram and go on Instagram and live there, right? Google how Instagram works. Okay. Participate. Don't just post. Participate. Participate in Instagram for 30 days straight. No fucking around. Posting every day. Exciting posts when possible. Maybe 2 days on Wednesdays and shit like that, or just Google the best days. You don't need it changes all the time. Stay on Instagram. Just go there and bust your ass for 30 straight days. No hesitation, no mistakes. And you will see growth. And stay participatory to that growth. And then from there, you will start to discover that there is a funnel mechanic occurring where people will start asking you questions about your paint jobs. They'll start asking you about tutorials and possibly commissions. Once you're to that stage on Instagram, everything's a Google search away. Do I need a link tree? Do I need a website? What are commission painting rates? Like, don't even launch with commissions. Launch with your brand.
Right. And don't do that thing either where you launch with Patreon and you launch with all these things.
Nope. That's why I said none of that. I said
you have to build up value. You have to build up value and build up trust with your audience and your following first.
Yep. Branding 101 takes time to get trust.
So somebody in comments has figured out. They said, Rob is sounding a lot like Gary Vaynerchuk. Turns out I've been following that dude for like 15 years. And I've done everything he said along the way. And it works. So if you don't know who that is, look it up. He's all over Instagram and he always has some dope ass content like every day. Some people aren't into the whole like hustle culture, but I think he's a little bit more above that. personally. But yes, it's a value exchange in everything you do. It's about trust and value. And, you know, there are going to be haters. Don't get discouraged, but get out there and, you know, hit the pavement. You're going to have to put in the effort, but, you know, make your goals and not anyone else's.
Yeah. And also don't, like Rob said, one of the best things he said is like, be aware of the trends. And you can and here's a real life example. You're in my analogy of you're on Instagram. You live there and you're participatory in that. And you're claiming to be a painting studio. And you are showcasing your baller ass work daily. And you are even showing off maybe some fun things for your Beats Lab. And maybe you're offering some little like quick tutorials. Like you're like, hey, these are the 3 paints I use to paint this, whatever. You know, those are all coming from trends. Everything you're seeing in your timeline because you're participating that is doing well is a trend. You need to participate in those trends. Okay? You need to be involved in the community and what is fun. Because ultimately, the reason there's an audience on any social media platform is because it is fun for them. And if you are standing aside from the thing that they are there for fun, they will swipe through and they won't even look at your shit. Trends. In a real life analogy. You see them every day on Instagram. Do those two.
Yep.
Well, that's our last one.
Dope. That was fun. Glad I was here for it.
Well, Rob, you want to take us out of here?
I mean, I guess I can. Since I'm, you know, the only other person here right now. Well, Wyatt will be back from return his videotapes here soon, and you can kick it over to him. So that's it for this one. Make sure to head on over to thelongwar.net for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today. P.S. We have t-shirt specials.